The vampire Queen Zelia sighed, a sound like dry silk rustling. A lone human mechanic answered. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The vast obsidian ceremonial hall fell silent as Queen Zelia's cool, commanding voice echoed off ancient stone walls. Her tall, slender form, clad in deep velvet and intricately wrought dark steel plates, towered over the assembled court, the armor gleaming impossibly bright under the cold, pulsating blood crystal chandeliers. Something was different about her ceremonial war harness, and the queen was not pleased about being kept in the dark. Deep within the sprawling maintenance crypts beneath the royal palace of Nyxos, Logan Hayes wiped grimy hands on his already stained coveralls. The UV filter system in this section had failed again, making the cramped workspace dimly lit and uncomfortably humid. As the only human mechanic on a planet of technologically advanced, immortal vampiric beings, he'd grown accustomed to being assigned the jobs no one else wanted. The tight spaces, the overlooked repairs, the systems deemed too insignificant for the attention of the Royal Sanguine Engineers. Logan had arrived on Nyxos 3 years ago, part of the first human exchange program following first contact with the Moravian Empire. While other humans had been assigned to prestigious diplomatic positions or cultural exchange programs, Logan's mechanical aptitude had landed him in the maintenance division, essentially becoming the palace janitor with a toolbox. The vampires, averaging over 6.5 feet tall with the latent ability to shift into mist or shadow, simply couldn't access many of the spaces their ancestors had designed before advanced technology had increased their physical power and preferred to hover above menial tasks. "Logan, where are you hiding, tiny one?" The gruff voice of Torlag, Logan's supervisor, reverberated through the maintenance crypt. The massive vampire's head appeared at the crypt entrance, his pale, marble-like skin catching the light from Logan's work lamp. "Just finishing the UV filter repair, sir," Logan called back, gathering his tools. The ebon regulator was shot again. "I've bypassed it with a manual control until we get a replacement." Torlag sniffed, a breath of chilled air briefly illuminating the tunnel. "Forget that. You're needed upstairs now." Logan's stomach dropped. In 3 years he had never been summoned upstairs, the common term for the royal quarters and throne room. Maintenance workers, especially human ones, simply weren't seen in those rarefied spaces. "What's going on?" Logan asked, crawling out of the access panel and standing to his full height of just under 6 feet, barely reaching Torlag's chest. "The Queen's ceremonial war harness has been modified," Torlag said, his expression unreadable in the typical Moravian way. "And you think I did?" Logan asked incredulously. "No, small one. I know you did." Torlag's massive form lowered to Logan's level. "The modifications bear your distinctive human touch." Logan felt the blood drain from his face as memories from 3 nights ago flooded back. He had been doing routine maintenance in the royal armory when he'd noticed the Queen's ceremonial armor on display. The intricate system of plates and joints had caught his attention, particularly the obvious design flaw in the shoulder articulation that would cause friction and limit the mist-shift mobility. Without thinking much about it, it was late, he was tired, and fixing things was second nature. Logan had spent hours recalibrating and improving the armor's joint systems. It had been a technical challenge, a puzzle to solve during a long night shift. He hadn't considered the political implications of touching the Queen's personal armor without permission. "I was just trying to help," Logan muttered. "The Queen is waiting," Torlag said simply, gesturing toward the lift that would take them upstairs. As they rode in silence, Logan contemplated his options. Running wasn't possible, not on a planet of apex predators with supernatural speed. Fighting was laughable for the same reason. His only choice was to face whatever punishment awaited him, and hope the 3 years of reliable service would count for something. The throne room doors were 20 foot tall, carved from some dense obsidian wood, and inlaid with precious metals and patterns that told the history of the Moravian royal line. As they swung open, Logan felt like an insect about to be squashed. The room beyond was cavernous, designed to accommodate dozens of full-grown vampires with room for their shadow forms to stretch in formal displays. At the far end, Queen Zelia sat upon a raised dais, her robes a deep midnight velvet that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Unlike the armor Logan had modified, which was now displayed on a stand beside the throne, the Queen wore simple ceremonial robes that draped over her powerful form. Her eyes, vertical slits of burning crimson, fixed on Logan immediately as he entered. The assembled court fell silent as Logan approached, flanked by Torlag. Whispers and low hisses followed him, and Logan caught fragments of Moravian language, most containing variations of human and presumptuous. "Your Majesty," Torlag announced with a formal bow, wings slightly extended in deference. "I present Logan Hayes, human maintenance technician." Queen Zelia's massive head lowered, bringing those intense crimson eyes level with Logan. Her nostrils flared, and Logan could feel the chilled air of her breath as she studied him. "So," she said, her voice surprisingly melodic despite its volume. "You are the one who modified my war regalia without permission." It wasn't a question. Logan swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty." A ripple of shocked murmurs swept through the court at his admission. Vampires valued honesty, but also proper deference and protocol, neither of which Logan was displaying by Moravian standards. "Explain yourself," the Queen commanded. Logan took a deep breath. He was already in trouble. Might as well be thorough. "The shoulder joint assembly had a design flaw, Your Majesty. The primary rotation bearing was causing friction against the secondary plate, which would have limited your mischieved mobility and eventually caused damage to the harness itself. I recalibrated the articulation system and reinforced the load-bearing points to distribute weight more efficiently." More murmurs from the court, though Logan thought he detected notes of interest among the outraged now. "And you took it upon yourself to make these changes because?" The Queen's head tilted slightly in what Logan had learned was a sign of curiosity among the Moravian. "Because it needed fixing," Logan said simply. "I'm a mechanic. I fix things." Queen Zelia was silent for a long moment, her gaze never leaving Logan's face. Then, to everyone's surprise, she stood and moved toward the armor display. With a fluid grace that belied her enormous strength, she began to don the ceremonial harness piece by piece, assisted by royal attendants. Logan held his breath. If the modifications didn't perform as intended, his life expectancy could be measured in seconds. The final piece, the complex shoulder assembly, was attached. The Queen rolled her massive shoulders and then, in a sudden movement that caused everyone in the court to step back, she initiated a shadow form shift. The armor shifted and adjusted perfectly, accommodating the transition without resistance. Queen Zelia's eyes widened slightly. She rotated her shoulders again, then executed a series of movements and supernatural bursts of speed that would have been impossible with the original design. The armor moved with her as if it were part of her body, the metal plates sliding seamlessly against each other. "Interesting," she said finally, retracting her aura and turning back to Logan. "You have improved my armor significantly, human?" Relief flooded through Logan, but he knew better than to celebrate prematurely. The Moravian were notoriously unpredictable by human standards. "However," the Queen continued, "you committed a serious breach of protocol. The royal war harness is sacred, passed down through generations, modified only by appointed royal ebonsmiths after extensive ceremonial preparations." Logan's heart sank. "I understand, Your Majesty. I apologize for my ignorance." Queen Zelia made a sound that might have been a vampiric equivalent of a thoughtful hum. "Ignorance does not excuse the breach. But your skill," she paused, examining the armor again. "Your skill is undeniable." She turned to address the court. "The human will be reassigned. From this day forward, Logan Hayes will serve as special technical advisor to the Royal Ebonsmith Guild." Logan blinked in surprise while Torlag made a choking sound beside him. A promotion? That was the last thing he had expected. "Additionally," the Queen continued, "he will personally oversee the retrofit of all Coven Guard battle harness with his improved joint design." Now the court erupted in earnest, vampires hissing and growling in protest. The Coven Guard commander, a powerful blood-scale vampire named Kravok, stepped forward with his aura partially extended in a display of challenge. "Your Majesty, with all due respect, this human knows nothing of our blood codes, our combat forms, our sacred armoring rituals. To entrust him with the protection of your royal guards is logical," Queen Zelia interrupted. "His design works. Tradition has value, Commander Kravok, but so does innovation. The human will work under the guidance of Master Ebonsmith Valher to ensure all protocols are respected." An elderly vampire with faded gray skin inclined his head in acknowledgement. Logan recognized him as the legendary Royal Ebonsmith whose work was celebrated throughout the Empire. "But, Your Majesty," Kravok persisted. "He is human, barely more than a warm blood. How can we trust?" "Enough." The Queen's voice was soft but carried unmistakable authority. "I have made my decision. The human has proven his worth through skill rather than lineage. A quality more of my subjects would do well to emulate." The court fell silent. "Logan Hayes," Queen Zelia addressed him directly again. "Do you accept this new position in service to the throne?" Logan straightened his posture and met the Queen's gaze as directly as he dared. "I do, Your Majesty. Thank you for the opportunity." The Queen's mouth curved in what Logan had learned to recognize as a Moravian smile. "Good. Report to Master Valher tomorrow morning. You are dismissed." As Logan turned to leave, still in a daze, he heard the Queen add, Oh, and Hayes. The next time you feel compelled to improve royal property, ask first. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the court, breaking the tension. Logan nodded respectfully and followed Torlag out of the throne room. Once the massive doors closed behind them, Torlag let out a breath that smelled of sulfur and ozone. Well, small one. It seems you've either been very lucky or very clever. Perhaps both. I just fixed what needed fixing, Logan said, still trying to make sense of what had happened. Indeed, and now you'll be fixing much more. Torlag's massive face was unreadable. I suggest you prepare yourself. The Ebonsmith Guild is not known for welcoming warm-blood outsiders. Logan nodded, understanding the warning. I'll do my best not to embarrass you, sir. You are no longer under my supervision, Hayes, Torlag rumbled. But know this, many eyes will be watching you now. The favorable attention of the Queen is both a blessing and a danger. With that cryptic remark, Torlag turned and lumbered away, leaving Logan alone in the ornate hallway, wondering what exactly he had gotten himself into. The next morning, Logan reported to the Ebonsmith Guild Hall, a massive stone structure adjacent to the palace. The building's entrance was carved to resemble a vampiric skull, complete with metallic fangs that gleamed in the light of Nyxosa's double moons. 2 coven guards flanked the entrance, their armor similar to the set Logan had modified, though noticeably less refined. The guards regarded Logan with obvious suspicion as he approached, their shadows shifting in agitation. I'm Logan Hayes, he announced, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. Here to see Master Valher by order of Queen Zelia. One guard snorted dismissively but stepped aside. The warm blood is expected, he hissed to his companion. Inside, the guild hall opened into a cavernous central chamber where several Moravian ebonsmiths were at work. Massive shadow forges lined the walls, each radiating an unnatural cold heat that would have been unbearable for humans without the advanced cooling systems integrated into the building. The vampires, naturally resistant to cold and shadow energy, moved comfortably among the dark flames, their skin reflecting the eerie purple glow of molten dark steel. The room fell silent as Logan entered, all eyes turning to stare at the human interloper. Logan fought the urge to shrink back, reminding himself that he was here by royal decree. The human arrives, announced a familiar voice, and Logan turned to see Master Valher approaching. Up close, the elderly vampire was even more impressive. His gray skin bore intricate patterns that Logan now recognized as ceremonial blood etchings, badges of honor among the Ebonsmith Guild. Master Valher, Logan bowed respectfully. Thank you for allowing me to join your guild. It was not my decision, Valher said bluntly, though without obvious malice. However, I have examined your modifications to Her Majesty's armor. Your work shows potential. Coming from the Master Ebonsmith, this was high praise indeed. Logan inclined his head in acknowledgement. Come, Valher turned and began walking toward the back of the hall. I will show you where you will work. Logan followed, acutely aware of the hostile stares following him. As they walked, he noted the various workstations and the projects underway, magnificent armor sets in various stages of completion, each bearing the distinctive stylized patterns of Moravian craftsmanship. The Queen has ordered that all Coven Guard armor be retrofitted with your joint design, Valher said as they walked. That is 127 complete harnesses, each custom-fitted to its wearer. Logan whistled under his breath. That's a lot of armor. Indeed, and each must be modified without compromising its integrity, its ceremonial significance, or its aesthetic value. Valher paused, turning his ancient eyes on Logan. Can you do this? With proper guidance on the ceremonial aspects. Yes, Logan replied honestly. The mechanical modifications I'm confident about. The cultural significance I'll need to learn. Valher made a rumbling sound deep in his chest that Logan couldn't interpret. At least you acknowledge your limitations. That is a beginning. They arrived at a smaller chamber off the main hall. Inside was a workbench that had clearly been adjusted for Logan's height, along with an array of tools, some familiar, some alien to him. One wall displayed diagrams of Moravian anatomy and armor designs. This will be your workspace, Valher said. You will begin with theoretical studies of our traditions before touching any actual armor. My apprentice, Thera, will instruct you in these matters. As if on cue, a vampire entered the chamber. Logan was surprised to see that Thera was significantly smaller than most Moravian he had encountered, perhaps only 5 feet 8 inches tall, and her skin was an unusual pale rose-gold color that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light of the workshop. Master Valher, she greeted the elder vampire respectfully, then turned curious eyes to Logan. This is the human Logan Hayes. Logan introduced himself with a small bow. Thera is the most knowledgeable apprentice regarding our ancient traditions, Valher explained. She will ensure you do not commit any cultural offenses while implementing your technical improvements. Thera's expression was difficult for Logan to read, but she didn't seem openly hostile like the others, merely curious. "I'll leave you to begin," Valher said. "The Queen has requested a progress report in 3 days. I suggest you work quickly, human." With that, the Master Ebinsmith departed, leaving Logan alone with Thera. So Logan began awkwardly. "Where should we start?" Thera circled him slowly, studying him with an intensity that made Logan uncomfortable. "You truly created the new joint design? Not copied it from somewhere?" "Created it," Logan confirmed. "It's just basic mechanical engineering applied to your existing armor structure." The problem was clear, so the solution was, well, not simple but logical. "Interesting." Thera stopped circling. "Most of our Ebinsmiths are bound by tradition. They create as they were taught, repeating patterns established thousands of years ago. Few think to question if there might be a better way." Logan raised an eyebrow in surprise. This wasn't the response he'd expected. "Don't misunderstand," Thera continued quickly. "Our traditions are sacred and valuable, but sometimes—" She trailed off, then shook her head. "Let us begin with the fundamentals. You need to understand the spiritual significance of each armor component before you can modify it appropriately." For the next several hours, Thera guided Logan through an intensive crash course in Moravian armor traditions. She explained how each piece represented a specific blood code virtue or historical event, how certain patterns were reserved for specific ranks, and how the very act of crafting armor was considered a form of meditation and devotion to the ancient vampire patrons. Logan absorbed as much as he could, taking notes and asking questions. To his surprise, Thera answered patiently, seeming to appreciate his genuine interest in understanding their culture rather than merely implementing his mechanical fixes. By late afternoon, Logan's head was swimming with information, but he felt he had grasped the basics. "I think I understand enough to begin designing the modification templates," he said. "Can I see one of the standard Coven Guard armor sets?" Thera hesitated. It would be unusual for an outsider to handle sacred armor so soon. "I don't need to touch it yet," Logan clarified. "Just to see it, to confirm my understanding of the structure." After a moment's consideration, Thera nodded. "Wait here." She returned shortly with a complete set of Coven Guard armor mounted on a stand. The craftsmanship was exquisite, each plate bearing intricate engravings that told the story of the Guard's lineage and achievements. "This belongs to Guard Captain Zirich," Thera explained. "He is currently on extended patrol at the Crimson Frontier, so his armor is available for study." Logan approached the armor respectfully, mindful of everything Thera had taught him about its significance. He examined the shoulder joints carefully, confirming that they had the same design flaw he had corrected in the Queen's harness. "Yes, I see the issue," he murmured, more to himself than to Thera. "The primary rotation bearing is placed too close to the secondary support strut, creating friction during certain movements. And look here," he pointed without touching. "The weight distribution is concentrated on these 2 points when it should be spread across these 4. Thera moved closer, her head tilting in the Moravian expression of curiosity. "Show me." Logan grabbed a piece of paper and quickly sketched the current design. Then, beside it, his proposed modification. "See how this redirects the force along these channels? It allows for greater mobility while actually strengthening the overall structure." Thera studied his drawings, her gaze thoughtful. "And this would not alter the external appearance? The sacred patterns would remain undisturbed?" "Completely undisturbed," Logan confirmed. "All changes are internal to the joint mechanism. From the outside it would look exactly the same." "Fascinating," Thera said softly. "Such a small change, yet so significant in function." "That's engineering for you," Logan smiled. "Sometimes the biggest improvements come from the smallest adjustments." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. Commander Kravak entered the workshop, his massive red-skinned form nearly filling the doorway. His expression darkened at the sight of Logan standing near the armor. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. "The human is handling sacred armor already." "He is not handling it, Commander," Thera replied calmly, "merely studying it as instructed by Master Valher, and commissioned by Her Majesty." Kravak's nostrils flared, small plumes of chilled mist escaping with his exhale. "I do not care what the Queen has ordered. This human has no right to lay his hands on the sacred regalia of my guards." Logan stepped back from the armor, hands raised placatingly. "I haven't touched it, Commander. Just looking." "Your eyes dishonor it enough," Kravak growled. "I have come to inform you, human, that while the Queen may have been impressed by your tinkering, the Coven Guard is not. We will not wear armor defiled by warm-blood hands." Thera's skin bristled visibly. "Commander, that is not your decision to make. The Queen has decreed." "The Queen is misguided in this matter," Kravak interrupted, a serious breach of protocol that shocked both Logan and Thera. "She has been too welcoming of humans and their ways, Some of us remember the old traditions and will not see them trampled by hairless apes who think themselves clever. Logan felt a chill despite the workshop's cold heat. This wasn't just about armor anymore. There were deeper political currents at play that he hadn't been aware of. Commander Kravok, Logan said carefully. I respect your traditions. That's why I'm studying them before making any modifications. The changes I propose wouldn't alter the sacred aspects of the armor, only improve its function. Silence. Kravok hissed. You know nothing of our ways. This is merely the beginning. First our armor, then what? Our weapons, our ceremonies, our throne? The vampire leaned in close, his cold breath washing over Logan. Some changes will not be tolerated, human. Remember that. With that ominous warning, Kravok turned and stalked out, his shadow leaving a scorch mark on the stone floor. A heavy silence fell over the workshop. Finally, Logan exhaled shakily. I take it he speaks for others beyond himself. Thera nodded grimly. Commander Kravok leads the traditionalist faction at court. They believe the Queen has been too progressive, particularly regarding relations with other species like humans. And now I'm caught in the middle of a political dispute, Logan? Perfect. More than you know, Thera said quietly. The modifications to the Queen's armor have become a symbol for progressives, a sign of beneficial cooperation. For traditionalists, evidence of warm-blood corruption of sacred ways. Logan ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I just fixed a mechanical problem. I didn't mean to start a cultural revolution. Often the greatest changes begin with the smallest actions, Thera observed. For what it's worth, I believe your modifications have merit, both practical and symbolic. Perhaps it is time for some of our more rigid traditions to bend before they break. Logan looked at her with new appreciation. You're not what I expected, Thera. The rose-gold vampire made a sound that Logan recognized as Moravian laughter. Nor are you human. Now, shall we continue our work? It seems we have more than the Queen to impress. Over the next 2 days, Logan and Thera worked intensively to develop a modification plan that would satisfy both the technical requirements and the cultural sensitivities involved. Logan created detailed diagrams and small-scale models to demonstrate the changes, while Thera provided invaluable insight into which elements could be altered and which must remain untouched. Master Valher visited periodically to observe their progress, offering curt but constructive criticism. To Logan's surprise, the old vampire seemed to be warming to him slightly, even going so far as to compliment one of his more elegant solutions for the neck joint reinforcement. On the morning of the third day, as Logan and Thera were preparing their presentation for the Queen, an unexpected visitor arrived at the workshop, Queen Zelia herself, accompanied only by 2 silent coven guards rather than her usual extensive entourage. Logan and Thera immediately prostrated themselves in the formal Moravian greeting. The Queen acknowledged them with a slight nod. Rise, she commanded. I have come to see your progress myself rather than waiting for a formal presentation. We are honored, Your Majesty, Thera said, recovering more quickly than Logan from the surprise. Queen Zelia moved to the workbench where their diagrams and models were displayed. Explain, she said simply, looking at Logan. Taking a deep breath to steady his nerves, Logan began to outline their proposed modification system. He demonstrated with the models how each joint would be reconfigured, emphasizing the improved mobility and durability while pointing out how the sacred external patterns would remain completely unchanged. The Queen listened attentively, occasionally asking surprisingly technical questions that revealed a deeper understanding of mechanical principles than Logan had expected. And the ceremonial aspects? She asked finally, turning to Thera. All sacred elements are preserved, Your Majesty, Thera assured her. We have designed the process to include the traditional blood purification rituals at each stage of modification. Queen Zelia nodded slowly. You have done well, both of you. She turned her crimson gaze fully on Logan. Particularly you, human. You have shown respect for our ways while offering genuine improvement. Thank you, Your Majesty, Logan said, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. However, the Queen continued, I am aware of the resistance to this project. Commander Kravok has made his objections known to me directly. Logan and Thera exchanged glances. Your Majesty, Thera began hesitantly. The commander's views are political in nature rather than practical. The Queen finished for her. Yes, I am well aware, she sighed, a sound like distant thunder. Change is never easy, especially for a species as long-lived as ours. Some of my people fear this represents the beginning of the end for our way of life. Others see it as necessary evolution. And what do you see, Your Majesty? Logan asked quietly. Survival, she answered simply. The strongest creatures are not those who never change, but those who adapt while preserving their essential nature. Her massive, pale head lowered to Logan's level. That is why this demonstration is important. It is not about armor. It is about the future of my people. Logan felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. I understand, Your Majesty. I won't let you down. See that you don't, the Queen replied, straightening to her full impressive height. For both our sakes. The next 2 days passed in a blur of intensive training and final armor adjustments. Razix drove Logan mercilessly, drilling him in combat techniques specifically designed to exploit the weaknesses in traditional vampire armor while maximizing the advantages of his modified version. Thera worked alongside them, making real-time adjustments to the armor based on observations from the training sessions. Her craftsmanship was flawless, her understanding of both the mechanical and ceremonial aspects allowing her to find the perfect balance between innovation and tradition. By the eve of the Solstice Vigil, Logan was exhausted but better prepared than he would have thought possible. His body ached constantly, marked with bruises from training, but his movements in the armor had become fluid and confident. Razix had even grudgingly acknowledged his progress. You will not win through strength or skill, the former commander reminded him during their final session. But you may win through surprise, agility, and the superior design of your armor. Remember, Kravok expects to dominate you easily. His overconfidence is your opportunity. Logan nodded, committing every piece of advice to memory. Thank you, Commander, for everything. Razix studied him for a moment, then inclined his head slightly. You have earned my respect, human. Few would have the courage to face what awaits you tomorrow. Or the stupidity, Logan added with a weak smile. Sometimes they are the same thing, Razix observed. Rest now. Tomorrow will test you as you have never been tested before. That night, Logan lay awake in his quarters, mind racing despite his physical exhaustion. So much had changed in such a short time. A week ago, he had been an anonymous maintenance worker fixing UV filter systems in forgotten crypts. Now he was preparing to fight a vampire commander in ceremonial combat before the Queen and entire royal court, potentially influencing the future course of Moravian society. All because he couldn't resist fixing a mechanical problem when he saw one. Morning came too quickly. Logan was awakened by Thera, who arrived with several guild apprentices carrying his armor and ceremonial robes. It is time, she said simply. The Solstice Vigil was the most important cultural event in the Moravian calendar, marking the night when Nyxosa's twin moons aligned perfectly over the ancient temple at the heart of the capital. The entire city was decorated with shadow-resistant banners and ceremonial lights, and the population was in a festive, if somber, mood. Everyone except Logan, who felt like he was marching to his execution. The ceremonial arena was packed with spectators when Logan arrived. Every tier filled with vampires of various ranks and houses. A special royal box had been prepared for Queen Zelia and her closest advisors, elevated above the general seating for optimal viewing. Logan was led to a preparation chamber beneath the arena where Thera and her assistants helped him don his armor with all the proper ceremonial procedures. Each piece was blessed and anointed before being attached, accompanied by traditional chants in the ancient Moravian language. Remember your training, Thera said quietly as she secured the final chest plate. And remember that regardless of the outcome today, you have already accomplished something significant. No human has ever worn ceremonial Moravian armor before. Let's hope I'm not the last, Logan replied, attempting humor despite his anxiety. A deep gong sounded above, signaling that it was time. Logan took a deep breath and followed his escort up the ramp that led to the arena floor. The roar that greeted his appearance was deafening, thousands of vampires expressing their curiosity, excitement, and in many cases disapproval at the unprecedented spectacle. Logan tried to focus on his breathing as he walked to the center of the arena where a ceremonial circle had been inscribed in the sand. Across the arena, another entrance opened and Commander Kravok emerged to thunderous applause. The red-skinned vampire was resplendent in traditional Coven Guard armor, polished to a high shine that caught the cold light of the aligned moon streaming through the open roof. He moved with predatory grace despite his enormous size, clearly accustomed to performing before crowds. Queen Zelia rose from her seat in the royal box, and the arena immediately fell silent. Today, as part of our sacred solstice vigil, we witness a demonstration of armor functionality, her voice carried effortlessly throughout the vast space. Commander Kravok will represent our traditional armor design. Logan Hayes, human mechanic, will demonstrate his modified version. Murmurs swept through the crowd at this formal acknowledgement of Logan's contribution. The Queen continued, outlining the rules of the combat for the benefit of the spectators, emphasizing that this was a technical demonstration rather than a battle to submission. Let the demonstration begin at the midnight chime, the Queen concluded, resuming her seat. Logan and Kravok approached the center circle, stopping at its edge as tradition dictated. Up close, the vampire commander was even more intimidating, nearly 7 feet tall of muscle, pale skin, and barely contained aggression. Your modifications will fail, Warmblood, Kravok said quietly for Logan's ears alone. And when they do, it will prove what I have said all along. That humans have no place in Moravian affairs. We'll let the armor speak for itself, Logan replied, striving for a calm he didn't feel. The commander's eyes narrowed dangerously. Oh, it will. And after I defeat you, perhaps the Queen will reconsider her progressive policies regarding your kind. Before Logan could respond, a crystal chime rang out, signaling the perfect alignment of the twin moons. The demonstration had begun. Kravok moved with surprising, controlled speed for his size, charging directly at Logan with obvious intent to end the contest quickly and decisively. Logan, remembering Razix's training, waited until the last possible moment before dodging sideways, using the superior mobility of his modified armor to slip past the vampire's outstretched claws. The crowd murmured in surprise as Logan executed a perfect roll and came up on his feet behind Kravok. The commander whirled, his shadow form lashing out in a move that would have caught most opponents. But Logan had been drilled repeatedly on this exact scenario and leapt over the sweeping shadow, landing lightly on his feet. Stand still and fight, human, Kravok growled, clearly annoyed by Logan's evasive tactics. Not part of the rules, Commander, Logan replied, continuing to maintain distance. He needed to watch, to wait for the opening Razix had taught him to recognize. They circled each other warily, Kravok making occasional lunges that Logan evaded. The crowd was growing restless, expecting more direct combat. Logan knew he needed to make a move soon or risk losing the audience's interest, and with it, the political impact of the demonstration. Kravok charged again, this time feinting left before striking right. It was a well-executed maneuver, but it required him to twist in a way that Logan knew would stress the traditional armor's shoulder joint. As the vampire commander committed to the strike, Logan saw his opportunity. Instead of retreating, Logan darted forward, slipping inside Kravok's guard at the exact moment when the traditional armor's joint limitation would be at its maximum. With perfect timing, he struck the designated target area on the vampire's chest, his armored gauntlet connecting solidly with the ceremonial plate. A resonant tone rang out across the arena, confirming a valid strike. The crowd erupted in a mixture of cheers and roars of disbelief. Logan had scored the first point. Kravok's expression darkened with fury. Lucky strike, human. It won't happen again. The commander abandoned his more elaborate techniques, reverting to direct, powerful attacks that relied on his superior strength and vampiric burst speed. Logan found himself hard-pressed to maintain distance, narrowly avoiding several strikes that would have ended the contest immediately. During one particularly aggressive sequence, Logan misjudged his timing and Kravok's armored fist caught him squarely in the side. Despite the excellent protection of his modified armor, the impact sent Logan tumbling across the sand. The confirmation tone sounded. Kravok had scored a point. Logan scrambled to his feet, wincing at the pain in his ribs, but grateful that the armor had distributed the force enough to prevent serious injury. The traditional armor would have crumpled under such impact, potentially causing broken ribs or worse. First blood to me, Warmblood, Kravok called out, playing to the crowd. Two more and this farce ends. Logan didn't waste breath on a reply. Instead, focusing on regaining his composure and looking for another opening. The demonstration was now tied at one strike each, with just over half the allotted time remaining. Kravok pressed his advantage, clearly believing that Logan would be more defensive after taking a hit. Instead, Logan surprised him by closing distance quickly, using his smaller size and the superior mobility of his armor to dart inside the vampire's reach again. This time, however, Kravok was ready. He pivoted with unexpected agility and caught Logan with a glancing blow to the shoulder. The confirmation tone sounded again, 2 strikes to 1 in Kravok's favor. A roar of approval went up from the traditionalist faction in the crowd. Logan could see Queen Zelia watching him passively from the royal box, her expression revealing nothing of her thoughts. Only one more strike and Kravok would win, proving the superiority of the traditional armor design and dealing a significant blow to the progressive faction at court. Logan couldn't let that happen. Not after everything he had learned about what this demonstration truly represented. Time was running short. Logan needed to score 2 more hits without taking another, and Kravok was now fighting with cautious confidence, maintaining his guard while looking for the opportunity to land the final decisive strike. Logan remembered Razix's final piece of advice from that morning: when conventional tactics fail, change the battlefield. With a sudden decision, Logan charged directly at Kravok, a move so unexpected that it momentarily confused the vampire commander. Instead of striking, however, Logan dropped and slid across the sand, passing between the vampire's legs and coming up behind him. Before Kravok could turn, Logan leapt upward, using the enhanced spring in his armor's leg joints to gain height, and struck the designated target area on the back of the commander's neck, a point deliberately difficult to reach in the traditional armor design due to limited rotation capabilities. The confirmation tone sounded to all. The crowd was fully engaged now, vampires standing and roaring as the demonstration reached its climax. Queen Zelia leaned forward slightly in her seat, her intense gaze fixed on the combatants. Kravok was visibly angry now, his disciplined combat style giving way to more aggressive, less controlled movements. This was exactly what Logan had hoped for. The more the commander pushed his traditional armor to its limits, the more its design flaws would become apparent. With less than a minute remaining, both combatants knew the next strike would likely determine the outcome. Kravok launched a coordinated attack, shadow form, fist, and boot, all moving in patterns designed to leave no avenue of escape. Logan waited until the last possible moment, then executed the most difficult maneuver Razix had taught him, a spinning leap that took advantage of every enhanced joint in his modified armor, contorting his body in ways impossible in the traditional design. As he spun past Kravok's guard, Logan struck the final target area on the vampire's lower back, the third valid hit. The confirmation tone sounded just as the time signal indicated the end of the demonstration. Logan had won 3 strikes to 2. For a moment, the arena was silent as the crowd processed what they had witnessed. Then, starting from the royal box and spreading outward, applause began to build. Vampires were notoriously reluctant to acknowledge non-Moravian accomplishments, so the growing applause represented a significant shift in attitude. Kravok stood motionless in the center of the arena, his expression a mixture of disbelief and fury. Protocol required him to acknowledge the outcome of the demonstration, but his pride was clearly wounded. Queen Zelia rose from her seat, commanding immediate silence. The demonstration is concluded. The modified armor design has proven superior in mobility and strike effectiveness while maintaining equivalent protective capability. She gestured to both combatants. Honor to Commander Kravok for his skilled representation of our traditional ways. Honor also to Logan Hayes, whose innovations have shown merit worthy of incorporation into our Coven Guard equipment. With that formal pronouncement, the matter was settled, at least officially. Logan knew that the political repercussions would continue to play out in the court and beyond, but the Queen's public endorsement of his modifications was a significant victory for the progressive faction. As Logan left the arena, exhausted but triumphant, he was met by Thera and Razix in the preparation chamber. Well fought, Warmblood, Razix said. The highest praise Logan had yet received from the former commander. Your armor performed perfectly, Thera added. Her rose-gold skin practically glowing with excitement. The joint modifications responded exactly as designed, even under combat stress. Logan sank onto a bench, allowing Thera's assistants to begin removing his armor. I couldn't have done it without both of you. The armor worked because of your craftsmanship, Thera. And I only landed those strikes because of your training, Commander. A collaborative victory, Thera observed. Perhaps that is the most important demonstration of all. As the final pieces of armor were removed, a royal attendant entered the chamber. Technical Advisor Hayes, the Queen requests your presence immediately. Logan exchanged glances with his companions, wondering what this summons might mean. He quickly changed into the formal robes provided and followed the attendant through a private passage that led directly to the royal box. Queen Zelia was alone when Logan entered, her massive form silhouetted against the aligned moons visible through the panoramic window. Logan Hayes, she acknowledged him. You fought well today. Thank you, Your Majesty, Logan bowed respectfully. Though it was more about the armor than my fighting ability. Was it? The Queen mused. I observed a human facing a vampire 3 times his size in ceremonial combat. A situation where any rational being would expect defeat, and yet finding a way to prevail through adaptation and innovation. She turned her crimson gaze on him fully. Perhaps that is the true lesson of today's demonstration. Logan wasn't sure how to respond to that, so he remained silent. I have made my decision regarding the armor modifications, the Queen continued. They will be implemented for all Coven Guard equipment under the joint supervision of Master Valher and yourself. Logan's eyes widened in surprise. Myself? But I'm just a maintenance worker. No longer, the Queen said firmly. I am creating a new position, Royal Technical Advisor. You will work directly with the Ebonsmith Guild to identify and implement appropriate technological improvements while respecting our sacred traditions. She paused. Unless you wish to return to fixing UV filter systems. Logan couldn't help but smile. I would be honored to accept the position, Your Majesty. Good. There will be resistance, of course. Commander Kravok and his faction will not change their views overnight, but they have seen the evidence with their own eyes today, and that is a beginning. The Queen moved toward the exit, indicating the audience was nearing its conclusion. One more thing, Logan Hayes. The next time you feel compelled to modify royal property without permission, do ask first. Even progressive monarchs have their limits. Logan bowed deeply. Understood, Your Majesty. As he watched the Queen depart, Logan reflected on the strange path that had led him here. From anonymous maintenance worker to royal technical advisor in the space of a week, all because he couldn't resist fixing a mechanical problem when he saw one. Some months later, Logan stood on a balcony overlooking the royal training grounds, watching the vampire guards perform maneuvers in their newly modified armor. The improvements had been implemented across the entire Coven Guard, with even Commander Kravok grudgingly acknowledging the superior performance. Thera joined him at the railing, her rose-gold skin catching the afternoon moonlight. The retrofit program is complete, she reported. All 127 sets modified and blessed according to tradition. And how are they being received? Logan asked. The younger guards have embraced the changes enthusiastically. The veterans are more reserved, but admit the improvements are functional. Thera's mouth curved in a slight Moravian smile. High praise from traditionalists. Logan nodded, satisfied. In the months since the Solstice Vigil demonstration, he had worked closely with the Ebonsmith Guild, learning their traditions while offering technical innovations that enhanced rather than replaced their ancient craftsmanship. It had been a delicate balance, but one that was proving increasingly successful. Commander Razix asked me to give you this, Thera said, handing Logan a small metal emblem bearing the insignia of the Coven Guard. It's a mark of honorary membership in the Shadow Assault Division. Quite unprecedented for a warm blood to carry. Logan accepted the emblem with surprise and gratitude. I'm honored. How is his new wing prosthetic working? He says it provides 30% greater maneuverability than the old design, Thera replied, though he would never admit to being pleased with anything. Of course. They were interrupted by the arrival of a royal messenger. Technical Advisor Hayes, the Queen requests your presence in the strategic planning chamber. It concerns the new defensive shield generators. As Logan followed the messenger, he reflected on how much had changed since that day in the maintenance crypt when he had impulsively decided to fix the Queen's armor. What had begun as a simple mechanical adjustment had evolved into something much more significant. A small but important shift in how the Moravian approached both technology and interspecies relations. He had learned that on Nixos, nothing was ever just a repair job. Everything from armor joints to cultural attitudes was interconnected in ways that weren't immediately obvious to an outsider. By respecting their traditions while offering genuine improvements, he had found a way to bridge worlds that had seemed impossibly distant. Queen Zelia looked up from the holographic display as Logan entered the strategic planning chamber. Technical Advisor Hayes. We have detected a potential weakness in the new shield generator configuration. I believe your unique perspective might be valuable in addressing it. Logan smiled as he joined the Queen and her generals at the display. I'll do my best, Your Majesty. After all, fixing problems is what I do.